Could any of you take me up on my suggestion to read the rest of Isaiah chapter 2? Oh, man.
The children's story was too interesting.
The children's story was too interesting. I get that. There were no pictures in Isaiah chapter 2. Right? Except there's lots of pictures in Isaiah chapter 2. And like it starts out, anyway, it would have been a very different sermon if we had just kept on reading through the rest of chapter 2. Because the mood changes dramatically after verse 5. Anyway, here we are. And this is the first Sunday of Advent. And the first Sunday of Advent is always devoted to these apocalyptic themes. This Jesus is coming soon sort of stuff. God is coming soon kind of themes. And I always have a very ambivalent relationship to these passages, but here they are. I noticed this year that the moods of the two passages we read, the Isaiah passage and the Matthew passage, are very different. And part of the reason is that Isaiah understands the coming of God as a reward. The idea, Isaiah says, and if we kept reading through Isaiah 2, we'd see that more clearly, is that we, as God's people, are supposed to be establishing a kingdom of justice and righteousness here on this earth. And if we would do this, then we could beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks and all of these sorts of stuff. Right? These sorts of things are our reward for having done what we were supposed to do. Isaiah says that we as a people, right, in his case, right, the people of Israel back 2,500 years ago, right, but also, right, as people of the New Covenant today in the church, we exist in a covenant relationship with God. We've said to God, we're going to do this, and then hopefully, God, you're going to respond in this way. And so Isaiah says, yes, and if you did this, then all of these good things would happen. But if we kept on reading through Isaiah chapter 2, Isaiah says, and you didn't do any of this, did you? So therefore, that is going to look really, really different, because God is not impressed. But anyway, so the apocalyptic, the coming of God, is potentially, in Isaiah, a reward for having done things the way you promised to do them. Jesus in Matthew is not so optimistic. If we started at the beginning of chapter 24 in Matthew, it's all about, so when is Jesus going to return? And the beginning of chapter 24, Matthew says, and all of these things are going to happen. And then, no, still not yet. And then all of these horrible and terrible bad things are going to happen. And then, oh, no, still not yet. Right? And when's it going to happen? I don't even know that, Jesus says. It's just, it's going to happen. So keep ready. But the mood for Jesus is very pessimistic. Jesus holds out no hope that we are actually going to succeed in this covenant that we have established with God. That we continue to hold out this goal of establishing a nation, or at least even decently a church, of justice and righteousness. And Jesus says, no, it's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is when I show up and fix everything, because you guys just aren't going to manage it. So Matthew, or Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, is not very optimistic. So we have these two pictures, but both of them keep reminding us that we're supposed to keep trying. Right? Because I mean, like, so often what happens with the apocalyptic is that people go, yeah, someday God's going to come and fix stuff. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wait and watch, like Jesus says. Well, still not. And any day now, right? And that's not the mood in either passage. The mood in both passages, okay, now get off your butt, right? And do what it is you said you were going to do, right? And whether or not you succeed, whether or not you think this is ultimately going to work, you still have a task in front of you. You still have a task that says, yes, there are things you are supposed to do. So there's this great apocalyptic scenario, this idea that someday God will come and fix everything. Isaiah talked about it 2,500 years ago. Jesus talked about it 2,000 years ago. Preachers have talked about it every Sunday since then, and here we still are. My general approach to the apocalyptic is just to toss it all into the trash and say, let's just, get on with it, but we're waiting for the big rescue of God. I think the cross is God's answer to that. But the God who did not rescue Jesus from the cross isn't going to rescue you and me either. The God who did not rescue the Jews from the Holocaust is not going to come and save us. The God who does not rescue the Palestinians, right? And but I can't say that. I can't say that because every day people experience the presence of God. Every day God does these little things, or these medium-sized things. And so not as the lightning flashes from the east to the west sort of thing, but every day God is with us. Every day in like really, really, really bad times, God continues to be with people. And I also have to proclaim that. Right? Right, even as we light the candle of frustration, that's not our goal. Whatever else we do, we cannot give in to despair. Because despair doesn't get you anywhere. Right? We always need to be moving from that candle to that candle. From frustration to hope. To hold out. Right? But also to know, right, that that's God's desire as well. That it's always God's desire and God's task. One of the beautiful things about being a Christian, right, is this notion that God continues to work in us. God is in Morgantown High School every day. God is in the places where you work. God is in your homes. God is with your kids wherever they are. And sometimes, even then, really, really awful stuff happens. And somehow God is there. So we continue to proclaim that. And we continue to hold out that hope. We continue to try to feel that presence even as we light the candle of frustration. And some days we don't want to just light the candle of frustration. Sometimes we just want to burn the whole place down. Which is why we light the candle. Because we're just going to light the candle rather than burning the whole place down, even if the whole place deserves to be burned down. And if we had kept on reading through Isaiah, he isn't very much a burn the whole place down sort of person. He'd have been fine with that notion. And there are certainly days when Jesus was like, yeah, this whole, he wasn't into burning the whole temple down because it was made of stone, so it wasn't going to burn anyway. But the Romans were going to show up and they were going to flatten it, and he says, that's okay. It's just stones. And there's the beautiful. So that's where we live, right? Somewhere between these two candles. So what we do in response, right, besides continuing to do justice and righteousness and live toward this hope, is that we come together as people. Because we have good days and we have bad days, and so when you have a bad day, I lift you up, and when I have a bad day, you lift me up, and we hold each other in between. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to celebrate communion together. Our rule for communion is that everyone is welcome. Just that simple. The idea in the New Testament is that Judas was at the first communion. So unless you have done something worse than actually betrayed the Son of